It's time for another episode of MoState Update, the official podcast of Missouri State Athletics. Here are your hosts, Corey Riggs, and the voice of the Bears, Hains.
Well, you found your way to episode 2, season 1 of MoState Update. I'm Hains along with Corey Riggs. A lot to talk about in Bears athletics. Starting with women's soccer, they have already secured the number 1 seed in the conference tournament. By virtue of their play so far, they're undefeated in conference play.
Yeah, it's been an incredible season for Coach Nelson and the Missouri State women's soccer team, and part of that success has been how good they've been in goal. Goalkeeper Camille Day, now with 26 career shutouts, she is just one away from tying, I believe it was Jackie Jasper, with the most shutouts in a career in Missouri State women's soccer history with 27. She'll have her next opportunity to do that later this week when Missouri State takes on Illinois State.
Women's cross-country team ran in the Bradley Invitational last Friday and came in 23rd out of 32 teams. This is a 6K. Tabitha Fox led the Bears across the line for the second time this season. This field featured 6 Power 4 teams and 260 runners. And then there was an open division as well. Missouri State had 9 in that and finished 3rd out of 15 in the open division. They'll see their conference opponents again when they race in the MVC Championship at UNI in Cedar Falls Friday, November 1st.
Yeah, meanwhile, Missouri State Volleyball went on the road to the Hoosier State last week and had a split. They had good luck on Friday night when they were able to pick up a 3-1 Missouri Valley Conference victory in Terre Haute against Indiana State, but then had a road setback in Evansville where they fell to the Purple Aces 3-1 at the Meeks Family Fieldhouse. The Bears are now 8-13 overall, 2-7 in league play as they kind of round the midway post at in the schedule for the season, and we'll get a chance to talk all about the season and more with their head coach Stephen McRoberts here in a little bit.
Well, meanwhile, a terrific win for football on homecoming. Really a happy day as the Bears trounced Indiana State 46-21, and they've now got a 5-game winning streak. They're 3-0 in Valley play.
Yeah, it's an incredible start. I was trying to think. I think I made the joke to you on the broadcast that the last time the Bears were 5-0, I think was my second sophomore year here.
Del Miller was the coach.
Del Miller was the coach, but I tell you what, Del Miller never had a quarterback like Jacob Clark. He throws his 5th 300-yard game. He now has 7 and 11 starts as Missouri State's quarterback, and the Bears got contributions from all over the field on the defensive side. Caleb Dietland had his first 2-sack day in his career as a Bear. Taj Chambers led Missouri State with 9 tackles on the day, and Tavier Williams, who's kind of stepped into that role that Todrick McGee was in. Todrick, of course, has been lost to the season with an injury. He comes out and has 6 stops for his second straight game. So the game maybe, I think you would agree with me, didn't start the way we had hoped to, but it finished the way it was supposed to, and the Bears get the homecoming victory, and the streak stays alive.
Yeah, the last 5-game winning streak in a single season was 1996 under Del Miller. The last time they won 6 in a row was 1990 under Jess Branch, the second of his back-to-back playoff teams.
So that was a DeAndre Smith-led Bears team. Now, hey, who was doing the radio with you in the 90s then?
That would have been Ned.
That would have been Ned?
Yeah.
So you and Ned traveling around doing those games?
Yeah.
That would have been made for an entertaining road trip, I'm sure.
Yeah, Ned with bringing his space heater to like Western Illinois, where it's a tiny booth and they have no heat, and it's a pretty miserable place, as you know.
Well, and what I was thinking was a space heater at Western Illinois might be enough to throw the breakers for the entire press box and knock it offline.
And send the thing up in flames.
Yeah, quite possibly.
Ned didn't care. He wanted to be warm.
Oh, yeah.
As he always does. Well, the Bears now return to the road on Saturday. They play Northern Iowa at 4 o'clock. And, on paper, this looks like a Bears win. And we haven't been able to say that very often when they go to Northern Iowa. They have beaten them 3 of the last 4 years, and it'd be a great way to go out of the conference with a victory here. And, Then you look ahead in the schedule, and we have the luxury of doing that. It could be an 8-game winning streak before you play North Dakota State and South Dakota State at the end.
Oh, and by the way, North Dakota State and South Dakota State just played in the Dakota Marker game up in the Fargo Dome, and the Bison knocked off the back-to-back national champions in South Dakota State.
Yep.
So now this week in the rankings, Missouri State moves up to number 18 in the national rankings. The Bison are number 1, and the Jackrabbits are number 3, with Montana State sandwiched in between the two of them. So the Valley, once again, well represented at the top or in the top 25 poll.
Well, it was Sunday night football at Betty and Bobby Allison South as the Bears won a thriller over Bowling Green 2-1, extending their unbeaten streak to 10 matches.
Yeah, I mean, as good as the season has been for Coach Kirk Nelson and the women's soccer team, it's been equally exciting on the men's side, nationally ranked in the top 15 and continuing to roll. And now SLU's going to be coming to town this week, first time ever in men's soccer. And we're going to talk a little soccer a little bit later with Elijah Zelkind as one of the defenders for Coach C. Bolton. He's going to be our guest a little bit later in the podcast.
So that'll be Wednesday at 6 when the Bears host St. Louis U. Well, in baseball alumni news, Drake Baldwin was the Atlanta Braves Minor League Player of the Year in their organization. He's a catcher. He's liable to be in the big leagues from the start next year, and he's just been announced as a member of the USA national team in the pro baseball tournament, which is going to be in Mexico, in Guadalajara and in Tepic in mid-November.
Yeah, the professional national team roster. This is the Premier 12 tournament. It features the top 12 nations in the WBSC/Konami Men's Baseball World Rankings. Team USA is one of 6 in Group A that'll play down in Mexico, and the top 2 teams will advance out of that to move on to Tokyo, Japan in late November, right before Thanksgiving, to have an opportunity. And, man, no better representative of Missouri State baseball than Drake Baldwin. Just an incredible young man, an incredible talent, and he has just steadily been climbing up from high A to double A to triple A inside that Braves organization, and continues to do great work behind the plate and really good work with the bat in his hand. He even landed himself in the Futures game this year during the All-Star break.
And he hit a home run.
That's right.
In the Futures game. So Baldwin, the highest drafted catcher ever for Missouri State. Got another one in the big leagues, Drew Millis with the Nationals, but a good chance Blake Baldwin will be joining him with the Braves.
Yep, I'd say both of them have kind of been up and down at times. Drew's definitely had a lot more opportunities toward the end of the season with the Nationals, and he's another one that just is it's that new breed of catcher. It's not just the big guy that stays behind the plate, hyper athletic, fast, and Millis, of course, a switch hitter, which makes him a commodity at the big league level, at any level for that matter.
Yeah, indeed. Well, when we come back, we'll visit with volleyball coach Stephen McRoberts, later with Eli from men's soccer, and with athletic director Ransdell. So that's our lineup for today, a good one. And we'll be back with Coach Mack right after this. Well, our first guest this week is Stephen McRoberts, in his 5th year as volleyball coach at MSU. Steve, you just came back from Indiana. I know you would have gotten a split, but you got a big win at Indiana State, one that the team really needed.
We sure did need it. It's been kind of a rough start to our conference slate. And I would say, like in 28 years, I'm not sure that I've ever seen or had a start where 7 out of the 9 are on the road. So these young ladies have been road warriors for a while, and so we're glad to be back in Hammons for the second half of conference. We'll get 7 to 9 at home. So thankful to be back.
Coach,
that is a weird break in the schedule.
Absolutely.
I was going to ask you, Coach, about the parity this year. I know there's it seems like if you go up and down the schedule, there's been a lot of set or 5-set matches, and there seems to be a lot of teams just kind of jam-packed right in the middle in the Missouri Valley Conference.
It seems to be have been the story in the 5 years that I've been here. I mean, just a lot of 5-setters, a lot of 4-setters.
Yeah.
Very competitive, but coming in on the wrong side of that more than we would like. And you're right. I mean, a team can, at this point in the season, go on a 2, 3, 4 match winning streak, and they could go from not even in the conference tournament to safely in. So there's a lot to play for in the second half of this conference schedule, for sure.
Well, it looks like, based on what we've seen so far, what is it? The Bears are 4th in the nation in sets played. That means a lot of 4- and 5-set matches.
Absolutely, and I think that's over about a 3 or 4 year period. So, and we unfortunately haven't made postseason NCAA, so that's even going off of just regular season play. So we've played a lot of volleyball, a lot of competitive volleyball, and we're working hard to find that recipe to be on the winning side of more of those than not.
Well, is that a mindset, or is it physical? What can you kind of tweak to get over the hump in those close sets?
We're working every day on it, figuring out what that is, and I do believe a lot of it is a mindset. I believe it's a belief. A belief that you're going to win.
Yeah.
And we have competitive young ladies. We have hard workers, great attitudes. I mean, they check a lot of the boxes. So sometimes in life it just gets down to actually doing it. And once you do it once, then you do it again, and you do it again, and it becomes a habit, and it becomes an expectation. And this program definitely has the expectation in its history to win. And so we've got to get back to that mindset and that confidence that when we step out on the court that we're going to win these games.
Yeah, 2003, Tony Pena was the Royals manager, and his slogan was "Believe," and they did. And they probably overachieved, but that belief will take you a long way.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile, Coach, you mentioned the young ladies in the program. Can you talk to us a little bit about Art? I think mentioned this is your 5th year, so that means you've got a group of seniors that have kind of been with you for the whole run. Who were the young ladies that have been leading this team that have been with you almost the entirety of your time here at Missouri State?
Yeah, 3 seniors: Morgan Sprague, Maddie Bushnell, Kate Owen, and Maddie and Kate are both local products, but all 3 of them have played a ton of matches for us in now their 4th year. All of them will leave in the record books for their respective positions, with Morgan with assist and digs, and Kate with digs, and Maddie with hitting percentage. And so they've meant a lot to the program. And again, as far as players that check the boxes, they've done that. I mean, they lead by example. Kate has really taken a role this year as being more of a vocal leader. Been really proud of her to see her grow in that role and actually step in and talk. I mean, it's not easy to talk to your peers, and especially as a role as a leader. There's a lot of times that we talk about that as coaches, but only a few are built for it, and she really has taken that role nicely this year, and really thankful and proud of her.
You've spent time, you've been a head coach, 28 years now?
Mm-hmm.
You've been in Texas, you've been in Mississippi, you've been in Missouri. How important is it to recruit locally? You have benefited in the last couple of years from there being a lot of talent volleyball-wise here in Southwest Missouri. Is that something that's always been kind of a priority for you? I guess maybe it depends on where you're coaching.
Absolutely. I mean, it's this is the first time, and at this level. So when I was in Texas, I coached at an NAI school, and we recruited within a 3-hour radius pretty predominantly.
Tank gas.
What?
Tank of gas.
On a tank of gas.
On a tank of gas. Yeah.
Thank you, Coach Epela.
That's all we could afford, you know. I mean, was be able to go around a lot of the high school games, and there was a lot of talent in the area, and we thrived on that and did well. And then Arkansas, Mississippi, Oklahoma, we had to recruit out of state a lot. And in fact, when I was at Ole Miss, I mean, we looked at it one time and we were basically getting 5 hours away from the university before we were really recruiting solid players that could help us. But here, it's a totally different. I mean, you throw a 3-hour radius around us and you've got Kansas City, St. Louis, and then our area is loaded with talent as well. And we can thrive with the talent that we have in the state of Missouri. And players want to come here because of the history of the program. So we're thankful for that history. We get to celebrate Coach Dollar on Friday night. It'll be Dollar night at our home game. So, you know, she started this whole deal, and very grateful for her because this program's legendary when it comes to NCAA volleyball.
It's a unique position to be in, I'm sure, for you. Art and I have talked about it with Joey Hawkins in baseball. He is the 3rd ever head coach in the baseball program's history. You're only the 4th coach
Correct.
in the volleyball program's history. That's got to maybe add a little bit of pressure there that you don't need, right?
It depends who you're following, and the three that I'm following definitely puts a lot of pressure on, for sure. And the history of this program speaks for itself. So. Grateful to still be here and have this opportunity to grow this program back, and that's what we have expectations of doing.
Well, you've obviously been here a while now, and you and your family, I'm sure, are dug in and acclimated in Springfield.
We love this area, you know, and so when I made the move from Ole Miss to whatever the next job was going to be, I told my family it was going to be a family decision. It's not just going to be a job decision. And Springfield, we love it. I mean, we live in Nixa, and so not a better place to raise kids and be around good people. And so that was number one on my list, and I'm thankful that I have a great job to go along with it.
It's also not a bad community if you like to play golf, and I understand that you like to play golf, and you've got a son that's a college golfer, right?
I do. His name's Jackson. He plays at Harding University and has had a great first semester down there. He's qualified twice to get to play with a team that in the past 2 years has been top 15 in the nation. So love to see that his growth in that. And, I mean, really the move here was his eye-opening experience to the love of golf. He really fell in love with it, became his passion, and has really taken off. And I used to could beat him, and now it's not really that much fun to play with him anymore unless he's on my team.
Yeah, I bet not. But you don't yourself get to play, I'm sure, as much as you would like.
Not this time of year. And then you learn, back when I was a bachelor, I was probably around a scratch golfer, and then you get married and it goes up a little bit, and then kid number 1 goes up a little bit, 2, 3, and and your priorities have to change. And I got to play a lot of golf in the last couple of years because my wife would say, hey, as long as one of the kids is with you, you can go. And when you have a kid that's their passion, you get to go play a lot of golf.
No, that makes for a good time. So
absolutely,
you all are home Friday and Saturday. So Dollar night Friday night, and then who do you all host on Saturday?
We have Murray State Friday, Belmont Saturday, and we turn around the next week and we get to play the next Friday, Saturday at home as well. We're home in our own beds for 2.5 weeks before we have to hit the road again. So we have 4 straight home matches. Very important. We've had some great crowds this year, and look forward to having our Bear fans come out and help us get a few victories.
Coach Mack, we appreciate the visit. Good luck the rest of the year.
Thank you, and go Bears.
Coach Steve McRoberts, when we come back, we'll visit with a men's soccer standout, Elijah Zelkind from San Diego. That's coming up next on Mo Sports Update. Well, from the Bears' highly successful men's soccer team, our guest is a junior defender from San Diego, Elijah Zelkind. Eli, we appreciate you being on today.
Appreciate you for having me.
So, San Diego, how did you make your way to Springfield?
I played a tournament out here my senior year. or my summer of my junior year, and Bolt saw me at this tournament, and we started talking, and from there, decided to come here, and
Well,
that's history.
Didn't get to play much the first couple of years, but you hung in there, and now you're getting your opportunity.
Yes, sir. Yeah. No. I redshirted my freshman year, and then I hurt my ankle and medical redshirted my next year. But yeah, it was a difficult couple of years, but good to be getting some minutes now.
How tough is it, Eli, to go through one of those years with an injury that kind of takes you away from the game? Because it's got to be, I would assume it is hard for a college athlete that, the stick is practice. You train, and that's the hard part. The reward is the game, but you didn't get that reward. So how did it kind of change you as a player going through that year without any reps? Because I assume in high school you probably never came off the field, right?
Yeah, no. It was definitely a big change. I had to change my mindset, my focus. I think that was the most important part, was making the process very driven on my own results and not on things outside of me. Focusing on my process and what I did, and I think that was important for me. Seeing improvement within myself rather than focusing on external. So I think that really helped me, focusing on my day-to-day, getting better every day, and focusing on that rather than,
Well, y'all are having a great season, undefeated in the conference, in first place, and nationally ranked in the top 15. That's kind of the standard for Missouri State men's soccer now, but you're living up to it.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Started off a little bit shaky, but turned things around, and yeah, love seeing the rankings.
And I guess as we visit with you on Tuesday, you're going to be hosting St. Louis tomorrow. First time they have ever been to Springfield.
Yeah, that should be a super fun one. Super excited for it. Tomorrow, big game,
It's kind of a crazy one too. So it's going to be Springfield Public Schools night, and after the Bears beat the Billikens, Kickapoo and Glendale, the South Side rivalry that it is going to get to play a game after. So the men's soccer will start at 6 o'clock here locally, and then the high school soccer will follow that. So should make for a really great crowd and environment. What was your high school experience like? Art already mentioned you grew up in San Diego. So what was high school soccer like for you out there?
It was great. We had a successful team as well. So definitely had some support from the school, but yeah, it was very fun. Enjoyed my high school.
Now I've always wondered, like when it comes to like college baseball, it always seems to me like most of the college baseball players in high school, they were either shortstops or center fielders. So what are most high school soccer players before they come? Because I assume that there's a lot of position changes. Guys that were strikers, were forwards in high school, maybe end up going to the midfield. Midfielders may end up coming back to be a wing or a center back. So what did you play in high school versus you're a defender now currently, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think the big positions that everybody looks at are the forwards and the midfielders. So I think those guys get, recruited especially heavily. So I think movement from midfield to other positions is definitely more common. I played a little bit of midfield in high school, but also played right back and defender, which is what I play now. So
you're one of only 3 American players on the team. That's a lot of sports, men's soccer particularly, a lot of diversity in terms of the background geographically of the players.
Yeah, no, it's super cool to be with a team with so many Europeans and international athletes. It's really cool to experience the different cultures and hear guys speaking different languages and stuff like that. It's definitely been really cool for me. Are
there any times where, with a lot of guys having English as a second language, I've met most of them. I know most of them can speak English, but when things get sped up on the pitch and you're kind of in the heat of the moment, does anybody ever yell out something in a language that you're not used to hearing? And it's
definitely, yeah, 100%. And yeah, dealing with that, language barrier sometimes can be tough. But we preach speak English at work, so we always try to use English. But stuff like that does happen.
And so you may have heard some Swedish cussing.
Definitely heard so.
That's got to be the bonus, right? If you're an international player,
Oh, yeah.
you can maybe sneak in a couple of phrases to an official that the American players can't sneak in.
Yeah, and the officials won't understand.
they won't. Eli, I want to talk to you about the success you've had recently. So Sunday night, you had your first career assist. That was on a throw-in in the game-winning goal against Memphis. Walk us through that and how that all came to pass.
That's a play we work on a lot. Throw-ins are something, we definitely work on, and we had a little set play and Ollie Bate and Dan Norman ran it to perfection, and I just got the ball to Dan, and he took an amazing touch and played a great ball across the 6, and Jesus is always in the box scoring goals, so he does what he does best, and he scored, and it was just really well executed, and happy we could get the win.
Jesus is a special player. I'm curious, for the soccer uneducated like myself, so you say that's a play, you work on it in practice. Do soccer plays, like for people that watch Ted Lasso, it's I'm guessing that it's not called Loki's Toboggan or a false 9, but do the plays have names? Do they get called beforehand?
Certain ones have names, but also a lot of it is just with the flow of the game and certain movements. We practice just certain rotations, and if we see that we're in a spot to run one of those, it's using your IQ of the game to decide what to run. But we definitely have a couple names for a couple plays. Now,
you played a career high 71 minutes in that game. You ended up getting the game ball that night, I believe. What did that mean to you?
Yeah, no, that was super special. After Memphis, Bull, decided to honor me with the game ball, so that was definitely really nice to get something like that after a big game.
I assume you're on a graduation track. What's your major?
Finance. Yep.
Yeah. Where do you plan to live after you graduate?
Oh, I don't know. I'll go wherever soccer ends up taking me, but hopefully, in the future I can end up back in San Diego. I love it there. So.
Well, now the better question for me is you're really just kind of rounding into form here. You're getting more minutes. You're starting to check mark off stuff in the stat sheet. You had a medical redshirt year, so does that mean you've got 2 years of eligibility left?
After this is my first year of eligibility, so I still have 3 left.
So you still have 3?
Yes, sir.
He ain't going anywhere, Art. He's staying right here for a while. That's fantastic.
That's the plan.
No, that is good. What is Coach Seabolt like in training? I always see him. I follow Coach Bolt on social media. The guy is always running. Every time I see him, where you guys are traveling, he's getting a run in somewhere, taking a picture. I imagine then that means that he doesn't let you guys take very many days off from conditioning.
Bolt is very, very intense, with training. Demands a really high level, a lot of focus, and I think it's great for us. The training environment's really intense, really high, and like you said, he runs a lot, so he demands that we're running, whether it's in between drills to get water, in training. We got to be running, working hard.
So San Diego, you went to Torrey Pines. That sounds nice. Out by the golf course?
Yes, sir. Yep, right on the golf course. It's lovely.
Yeah, bet it is. Well, Eli, we appreciate you stopping by today. Keep up the good work and that of the team.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it very much. Thank you for having me.
Eli Zelkind joining us on our podcast. When we come back, we'll visit with Athletic Director Patrick Ransdell. That's next. Back with you now, and our guest is Missouri State Athletic Director Patrick Ransdell. Been on the job since September 1st. So, Pat, you've been about 2 months on the job. What needs have you identified so far? And I'm sure you've been making budgetary plans to make those needs happen.
We have, and we just actually had a meeting this week to talk about budget for next year and starting to map that stuff out well in advance so that we're not surprised with anything as we get through this year. Certainly there's some challenges there, but as we start looking, and people should start looking in their mailboxes here probably in the next month or so for football renewals, we're going to get that stuff out way earlier so that we can attack new sales and things of that nature much further in advance so that we give ourselves the best opportunity to make some revenue going into next year, starting with football season fall of, 25. So we've got some stuff that we're identifying that we can play with, and because we gotta add some personnel, we gotta attack some things for our student athletes, some of their services, nutrition, snacks, things of that nature. So those are a couple of hot ones that are keen on my radar right now as we look toward next year.
Can you share with us some other areas where you think more staffing might be needed?
Yeah, I mean, I think especially early on, if we can look at those revenue-generating areas, whether that's marketing, sales, development, I'd like to attack some of those things early on so that we can then generate revenue to maybe take care of some areas like athletic training, compliance, and things like that, academics on the backside. So, you know, it's the chicken or the egg conversation. What do you do first? So I think we're going to certainly look at doing some revenue generating things so that we can, you know, maybe generate a few $100,000 up to maybe $1 million more next year so that we can reinvest that into some areas that might not have a direct ROI attached to it.
Meanwhile, you brought up training table nutrition. I find it funny. I hear that a lot right now. You've been in this business in athletics for a long time. You've made a few stops along the way. Has this always been kind of front and center, or is this kind of more of an in vogue thing now that the dietary needs, the training table is kind of so far up in a student athlete's wish list in what they want?
Yeah, I think you've really seen it take off for the last 10 years. When I was at UCF, we actually built a athletic only training table. So, I mean, it had a chef, and so we had all the teams kind of buy into that, and you know, it's a fairly sizable operation financially, because it takes a lot to feed all these student athletes. They don't eat light. So we're, you know, it takes a lot, and if we can get to the point where we can give some of our student athletes just a little bit more here and there, I think it's going to allow us to take the next step physically, because as we move into Conference USA, you know, the easy one is always football, right? I mean, it's kind of the easy one because, you know, you have guys that need to be sizable, especially your linemen, et cetera, et cetera. They are running through calories like there's no tomorrow. So we have to replace it and then some, so that they feel like they've got enough protein in their bodies to react, and that trickles down to every single sport. But that's the obvious one that is easy to talk about. So we need to make sure that our nutrition is top shelf, and we're going to attack that. Probably baby steps first. But eventually, I think we'll need to get into a more regular meal situation for most of our sports.
So, a lot may not be aware. You still, for now, have family back in Boone, North Carolina. Your last stop.
Yep.
Hit pretty hard by the flooding from one of the hurricanes recently. How's everything there?
Everything's good. So they had to relocate to my parents' place in Kentucky for about 8 or 9 days because they were without power and water for about 12. So nothing happened to the house or the property, but kind of getting out there. If you've ever been to the mountains of North Carolina, sometimes it as the crow flies, it might not be very far, but to wind back through those roads, it can be a challenge. And then if trees are down, it just takes a while to kind of dig out and cut through it. So everything is fine. We fared way better than a lot of folks in that region. So, you know, we have nothing. The Ransdells have nothing to complain about. And so they're back. They actually start school for the first time back is on this Thursday. So they will have been out almost a whole month, which is tough. I mean, that's just not the time of year to be out, and I don't know what that means in terms of making it all up and making it whole, but we'll figure it out. And because they had one school up there that was completely wiped out, gone. So they only have the county is a one-system county. So like if one school has a problem, they all have a problem. So they had to relocate that entire school to a community college and a convention center for the remainder of this year. So it's going to be a challenge.
I know you and President Williams have been going out meeting with donors and possible new donors. How's that gone?
It's gone great. I've had several meetings, and then they've had a little Bears Fun reception tour, if you will, that I was able to be a part of. Actually, our last one is tomorrow, and everybody's just been so great and willing to talk, and because we're going to need them. We're going to need everybody. We're going to need everybody to step up from a season ticket standpoint, Bears Fun, and then eventually capital improvements. We're going to need a lot of people to step up and say, hey, listen, we want to make this a reality. We're going to have some plans here, hopefully before too long, and we're going to hit this thing running.
I know you've talked about enhancements of the game atmosphere, particularly basketball. Are you looking at that and going to be in time to implement some of those for this year?
I think so. I think I'm looking forward to seeing my first game and seeing what our capabilities are, and then from there we can kind of maybe do some tweaks. And but we talked about budget earlier. Mm-hmm. I've already started identifying several things that we can move, maybe from football to basketball and things of that nature that'll allow us to have a little bit more pop in our production. So I think you'll see a lot more of that come next year, so fall of 25 leading into winter of 26. But I do think that there's things that we can play with as we tip off basketball season here in a few weeks. But I am looking forward to getting my first game in here. I was just looking at the arena and all the LED that we have to work with. We don't really have that over at football right now. We'll get there eventually. But I think we've got a lot of potential in this arena right here.
Patrick, you bring up football. Brooke and the kids got to come for homecoming. What was their assessment of their first homecoming as Bears, and what were your takeaways?
I think they were tired of Dad stopping to talk to everybody. I think my kids looked at me and was like, and just rolling their eyes like, here we are. We're trying to walk somewhere, and here's Dad stopping to talk to everybody.
I imagine that's kind of like trying to get through a crowd with him, so I can understand.
Right? Well, that's a good thing, I'd say.
Yeah, that's right. It is a good thing. It's just different. So it's, but they loved it. I mean, they got to tour Springfield. They got to see schools. Went to a couple neighborhoods. So it was a really good thing for them to be here and experience a game day. I think now they have a better understanding of what we have to work with, and I think they really were impressed with Bearfest Village and all the tailgating and the tents, and so I was glad that they were able to get here and kind of take it all in, because they're going to be highly involved with everything that we got going on.
Meanwhile, on the topic of football, homecoming now in the rearview mirror, this 5-game win streak, everything you were told on what to expect, how football is viewed in the community. Is this ahead of schedule? Does this exceed expectations on what you were hoping for from Ryan Beard and this program in their last year at the FCS level before making the move to FBS, or is this kind of a dream come true scenario?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're ahead of where I thought that we might be competitively.
Okay.
So I'm pleased with that. I think we have some players. I think we got an opportunity to compete. And that's really all you can ask for. If you got the opportunity to compete, then you got the opportunity to win, and then it's just up to go execute and get it done. So to have a team that I feel like can step into Conference USA and compete, that's huge. There's a lot of times people make the move up and they have no shot at being competitive. And I think we do have that. With Jacob having another year, I think he can be the best, if not one of the best quarterbacks in Conference USA right from the get-go. So if you're solid at that position, you have a solid football team. If you're not solid at that position, then you are questionable whether you have a solid football team. So I think we have some work to do recruiting, and Coach Beard and them are attacking that right now. I think we've got to shore up depth on the lines, things of that nature. I think you can go out and I think we got some good skill guys. So I think we got to shore up some stuff, but it's really good right now in terms of where I thought that we would be. We got to get better. We got to engage more people to come to games. I think we've had good crowds. I wouldn't say they've been great. I thought Family Weekend was pretty good. But we got to continue to engage our community to make sure that everybody's prioritizing our 6 home games. That's going to be vital to making this move. The Springfield in general has got to buy into those at least 6 home games for us to make sure that we're stay at the top of Conference USA.
Patrick, we appreciate you stopping by. Welcome again to Springfield. A lot of firsts for you. This is your first time on this medium, and I know it won't be the last.
No, I'll be glad to come out here on the podcast at any time.
Corey and I will be back to wrap things up right after this. Well, thanks to our guest for being on with us, our second podcast of this production. Corey, we've got some home events, a lot of them here toward the middle of the week and the weekend.
Yeah, it's really kind of a busy time on campus. Of course, last week was homecoming, and there was plenty for people to see and do, but it doesn't really slow down any after homecoming. So Wednesday night, the nationally ranked men's soccer team is back on campus to take on SLU, and this was something we talked about earlier, Art. I think you mentioned it in the interview with Eli. SLU doesn't come here very often for soccer or any sport for that matter.
Yeah, never for men's soccer before now.
But they will be here 6 o'clock that night. It will also be SPS night immediately following the Billikens and Bears. It'll be Kickapoo and Glendale. So the Southside Showdown gets to play at Betty and Bobby Allison South Stadium. So that'll be a lot of fun. Meanwhile, if soccer isn't your thing, you can come out and join Art and I at Big Shots Golf along with head coach Ryan Beard for Inside the Den. We'll talk about the Bears' homecoming win and take a look ahead as Missouri State gets ready to travel to Northern Iowa. Meanwhile, Friday night, the Duel in the Pool returns here at the pool at Hammond Student Center. That is, of course, the long-standing rivalry between the Missouri State swim program and the Drury University swim program. So that'll be a lot of fun. That'll get started at 5 o'clock, also at Hammond Student Center on Friday night. Coach McRoberts and the volleyball team will take on Murray State. That game's scheduled to start at 6 o'clock, so swimming at 5 and then volleyball at 6. Saturday, more volleyball at Hammond Student Center. 5 o'clock start time as the Bears play host to Belmont and what could possibly be one of their final meetings as the time for volleyball also winds down in the Missouri Valley Conference. And then Sunday, women's soccer will host Valparaiso. That's at noon at Betty and Bobby Allison South Stadium. And, of course, such a great season for Coach Kirk Nelson and the women's soccer team. They have already locked up the #1 seed in the Valley postseason tournament. So the road to the postseason will go through Springfield this year for women's soccer.
Indeed it will. So our thanks again to our guests, and we'll be back here next week for edition number 3 of Most Sports Update. Same bat channel next week. Corey and I will be here. Art Hains along with Corey Riggs. Thanks for joining us.
You've been listening to the MoState Update with Art Hains and Corey Riggs. The preceding has been a Learfield presentation on the Missouri State Sports Network.